Welcome to J.R. Hendrick Texan Consort. Get ready to enjoy the adventure. November 12, 1993. Keep forgetting. $11:15 a.m. The private jet takes off from Lubbock International Airport, heading towards Midland International Airport. On board is Jim, Claude, JR, and Betsy, who had Darren drive her to meet her husband. Betsy is delighted to meet with her son and husband. Once again, finally, they can be reunited as a family. But meanwhile, Elizabeth is going through chemotherapy at the oncology center in San Angelo. 1:55 p.m. Back at the ranch, JR is finishing listening to Rush Limbaugh. His mother had made him some lasagna. His plan was to pick up Ken and Dave Smith at 4. At 4 p.m., Darren drove the van up to Ken's house. "Let's go," Ken said, getting into the car. "Good to hang out, my brother." 4:05 p.m. The van stops off at Dave Smith's hangout in Odessa, known as the Haven. "Man, I'm so glad to finally get together," Dave said. "Hey, what's up, fellas? We're gonna do this?" "So how are you guys doing?" Ken asked. "Fine," Gerald said. "Good," Dave said. "And Karen?" Ken asked. "I didn't think you cared," Gerald said. "You see, unfortunately, dating life made you henpecked, JR. I'm sorry, Dave, but she'll serve his heart on a silver platter." Well, as for Ken, he wanted to ask her out as well. "So touche," JR said. "You see, Ken takes things too hard and pushes too fast." "Relax, JR," Ken teased. "I'll relax when we get to dinner." They drive to IHOP for dinner. 4:35 p.m. Back in the van, JR, Ken, and Darren continued their conversation. "How are you doing, JR, Dave?" Ken asked. "I'm better. Breakfast or dinner? That's something else," JR said. "But then again, it's good that you're so unorthodox." "Not all the way, JR, Ken said. "Not all the way." "You know what? You guys are a good time," Dave Smith said. 4:50 p.m. Darren drops Dave Smith off at his aunt's house, where she is getting ready to take him to Big Spring to see his parents. Ken and JR head straight back to the ranch. 5 p.m. Back at the ranch, JR and Ken go upstairs to wash up. Meanwhile, downstairs, Betsy, Elizabeth, and Jim are having cocktails. Betsy is having a margarita. Her mother, Elizabeth, is having a wine cooler, while Jim is drinking a Jack Daniels before dinner. Claude is also drinking a margarita. He was going to stay the night at the ranch before returning home for a couple of days tomorrow. 6:10 p.m. At Swainfield, the family is sitting together in the living room. Elizabeth announces that Kyle is coming home the 22nd of January, just in time for Thanksgiving. Jim said he'd arranged for a house with kitchenette next door and behind the ranch where he could keep his family there. 6:25 p.m. JR is upstairs watching the PBS NewsHour when Ken came in. "You're wanted downstairs," Ken said. JR rushes downstairs where he is greeted by his father in the living room. "I hear you're switching to public affairs, political communications," Jim said. "Yes, sir," JR said. "My schedule is Intro to Impersonal Communications, Freshman Spanish 2, American Public Policy, and Petroleum Geology. You are a man after my own heart." "You're my boy," Jim said. Now we go on to November 13th. 4 a.m. Jim and Claude climb into Jim's truck to meet Sally Fingerton, a business partner at a rig in Midkiff. They would be there by 5 a.m. At 5 a.m., Jim and Claude arrive in Midkiff to inspect the rig. Everything was looking reasonably well. Jim told Sally to file it in her report for the Texas Railroad Commission so Jim could put it in his annual report. 7 a.m. JR and Ken wake up and go downstairs for breakfast. Eggs, biscuits, and bacon, and orange juice. A black man is in the kitchen talking to Betsy. "Miss Betsy, the lambs are ready for herding," Mike said. "JR," Betsy said, "this is Mike, the new ranch foreman. Am I going to have a problem with you being prejudiced?" Mike asked. "Miss Betsy warned me one of her boys is prejudiced." "Not me, sir," Gerald said. "My granddad raised me not to be prejudiced. Some of his ranch workers were black or Hispanic." Then we gonna get along then, Mike said. "I told you JR is one of the easiest of my kids to get along with." 7:40 a.m. Ken goes to the weight room to work out, so JR studies his government textbook on tape. He's excited to learn more. He knows that time is running short before he had to work on his term paper. The term paper was due December 1st, and his final exam in government would be on December the 8th. After that final, he would be taken to the dorm to pack a bag and head home to the ranch. The plan was for the whole family to fly into Dallas the 24th of December, and JR would head back to the ranch December 30th with his father. 9 a.m. Jer and Ken are swimming in the indoor swimming pool. Elizabeth, the grandmother, is resting upstairs in her room, listening to country music. Betsy is gathering the milk from cows to sell to the dairy companies, namely Grandy's Meadowmilk, which had been contracted with Swainfield Ranch since 1942. 9:30 a.m. Arriving in his office in downtown Midland, Jim goes to his office to look at annual reports of the Texas Railroad Commission. Today, he was going to tweak his before submitting it December the 1st. 11:40 a.m. Patricia, the servant, comes in with the Pawpaw burgers. JR won the Monopoly game that he had been playing with Ken. They were to have lunch, and then Mary Jo would take Ken back to his parents' house by 1 p.m. 1:30 p.m. With Ken gone, JR is listening to his government textbook and looking at his notes. 2:10 p.m. Central. JR takes a break from studying and slogging away when he sees his father is in the house. "Come on over here, boy, and take a seat," Jim said. "Now, I just got an email from your doctor over to the Texas Tech. And he says sometime next spring you're going to have to go to the Mayo Clinic. Now, your mama told me that this Dr. Lowell that they're sending you to was among the ones that worked on you when you was a little boy. I may be in Washington, D.C. at that time, but when the time comes that you have to go to Phoenix, your mama is coming with you. Don't want to take no chances. With your health, boy, no more collapses again. You hear?" 2:40 p.m. Jim and Betsy are downstairs watching a movie. Elizabeth is upstairs resting, and so JR takes a break from government studies to listen to the radio. He's bored. Can't wait to go out with Karen tonight. 3:25 p.m. At the ranch, Jim goes out to meet with Mike to talk about the milking machines. He shows him how to clean the machines so that they can be used regularly. JR sees it, waves to Mike, and walks back in from the balcony. He then gets into the shower to get ready for Karen. 4 p.m. JR is sitting out on the front porch. He's surprised to find a 1994 Chrysler van out front. Evidently, Jim had purchased it on the phone. Martin, one of the ranchers, drove it off the car lot and brought it to Jim. This would be the car he'd used in West Texas. Once he arrived in Washington, D.C., he purchased one just like that. He sees his father open the van driver's door and tilt the seat further back to make up for his lanky 6'3" frame. 4:20 p.m. In Galveston,